The damage here is not to Harvard, it is to the United States. Just back up for a second and think about this. Imagine that the Chinese government decided to attack an American asset that generated tens to hundreds of billions of dollars in economic value every year. That was the single most important institution in securing American leadership in science and technology, and that also took in the next generation of global leaders, exposed them to the best of the United States, and indoctrinated them in American values, and then sent them home. If the Chinese government decided to attack an asset of that value, we would expect the United States government to go to war to defend it. And instead, it is the United States government that is doing it to us, to itself.
And beyond the economic contribution of these students, there are other components too. This is sort of like, I mean, would you think that it's sort of like the United States shooting itself in the foot?
The United States shooting itself in the foot would be kind compared to that. This is the United States shooting itself in the stomach. Let's put this in perspective. Just recently, Nature identified the 10 top research universities in the world. So the 10 universities in the world that contribute the most to science and technology. Only 2 of those 10 were American. The other 8 were Chinese. 8th was MIT, and first was Harvard. There is no way to be globally competitive without leadership in science and technology. And the Trump administration is attacking the institution of the United States that is most successful at doing that.
So how does this then play out? Clearly, this will be tied up in the courts forever, and there was a stay from a California judge overnight. But if I'm an international student, why would I even take the risk at this point? Like, the brain drain can start now.
Yeah, I mean, so this is clearly lawless by the administration. It is clearly pretextual. So in Kristi Noem's letter to the Harvard, there is not a claim of any laws being violated. It is simply a bunch of demands. And I note that in Secretary DeVos's letter to Harvard explaining why they were taking earlier actions, anti-Semitism, which is supposedly the reason all of this was done, was not even mentioned, right? This is clearly pretextual. This is not to say that Harvard hasn't made mistakes. Of course it has. It's not to say that Harvard hasn't handled issues badly. Of course it has. But none of this is about that, right? And so from the perspective of not just students, but also top-tier researchers, right, who are dependent heavily on federal funding, they're going to be thinking about leading. And here's the irony of all ironies. Hong Kong technology has already announced that they will accept students and researchers who are refugees from Harvard on favorable terms. The Trump administration is taking the best minds in the world and trying to make them flee to China.
Is there time for them to even transfer, as Kristi Noem or whomever in the administration said they should do?
You know, it depends on the person. It depends on the student. But there are people who are devastated right now. I'm getting emails from former students who are in tears, who don't know what's going to happen to them. And surely the cruelty is part of the point. I mean, let's be clear. This is not, Kristi Noem said this herself. This is not about Harvard. This is about an attempt by the administration to break American higher education to its will, right? It is trying to seize control of American universities and get them to become organs of indoctrination. And that's not me claiming it. That is literally what Kristi Noem has stated in her statements, right? So yeah, this is going to go a lot beyond Harvard. And you may leave Harvard and find out that it chases you to wherever you go next, too.
How does this affect, this comes from our producer in the control room, how does this affect those that are graduating next week? I mean, if you're an overseas student, like, do you wind up getting that degree?
I mean, my guess is that Harvard will be able to get a stay in place for the next week, but no one knows that the cruelty and the chaos this is imposing is not accidental. It is the point. They are trying to inflict as much harm as on everybody because it is an object lesson for everyone else, right? Harvard has more wealth, more power, and more institutional strength than almost any other sort of organization in America. I mean, this side of Bloomberg itself, Harvard may have more independence from the federal government than anyone else. If they can break Harvard, then they are sending a sign that they can do it to anybody. And that is the message that this is trying to convey.